You don't need to clap.
I thought we did. You're changing the scenario.
So there's community groups. Like Barry Barnes has got one, right?
He's got one, but we need to do more. Or we need to join his.
I'm just trying to think
of to double stitch.
Of practical practical things that we can do, you know, like actual practical.
We're registered to vote in local elections. We put the site up at the end of this, so anybody who's interested can go to it. It tells you how to register to vote, and if you're a resident who's been here for 3 years, you've got to do it by the 15th of January. Yep, I'll give you the microphone.
Okay, can we talk about I want to just talk about some cultural things, cultural reference points from your life, like maybe when you were 16. What kind of music were you listening to at that time?
I think it was probably the Beatles, because I remember I was 14 when they first came out, and we all fell instantly in love with them from a tiny photograph in the Daily Mail. So them and the Rolling Stones,
right,
and maybe a bit of James Brown. Who else? I can't think, it was so long ago. I mean, what will that do?
That'll do, yeah. I mean, so when you left St Martin's, did you go straight into, were you working before you left? Did you have like jobs?
Yeah, I had to, because my parents didn't pass the means test, and they sort of equated poverty with chastity, and I had about 300 quid a year grant. I was like the poorest person at St Martin's, having been on the diplomatic list when I was 16 in Sweden.
Yeah,
and I went back there, and I was just so poor I had to start work immediately. And so I got freelance jobs and lied my way into them, and I was, I think, even doing foundation course. And so by the time I finished at 21, I got quite a good freelance practice going. And then a friend of mine said, let's go into business, and so we did.
Doing what?
Making clothes.
Really?
Yeah, flogging them and making them on these kiddie sewing machines. Hysterical.
In the early...
Like gaucho pants to Saks Fifth Avenue, we were successful.
In the 70s, was that early 70s?
Yeah, 69.
Okay.
Yeah, late 60s.
And how did that go from making clothes to Wham, Wake Me Up Before You Go?
Well, that wasn't actually my name brand. It was, we mixed our surnames together, and it was called Tatabankum. And so we did that for 5 years. We were getting, you know, front pages in Vogue and that kind of thing. But we fell out, never go into business with friends, I'm afraid, or family. It's always a disaster. I've done it so many times, I don't know why I don't listen to myself. And I launched my own brand in 79.
1979, okay. What was that?
And then that was just Katharine and the
that was when you started, okay.
And we did clothes, and we were just getting so much. We did really well, and you know, it was fun. And we did sort of fairly outrageous fashion shows, and we were getting masses of ridiculous amounts of press coverage, and we made shows to Paris, and getting kind of 27 TV interviews back to back after a fashion show. I thought, we don't need all of this publicity to sell all the clothes that we can actually make. And we're getting really copied. And I thought, what would be actually make me happy if it was copied? And I thought, well, it would be quite funny. So I thought we'd do these huge environmental and social messages, talk about things that needed talking about, and see if people copied those, because they were just copying the whole collection without even trying it on. And that's how the t-shirt started. I mean, Wham! And Frankie Goes to Hollywood, I mean, they sort of did their own thing.
Okay.
Like Frankie Goes to Hollywood did, Frankie says relax. I didn't do that, they did it themselves. We tried to keep the t-shirts clean, non-profit, not doing anything that supported any particular commercial organisation, but just, you know, issue-based.
Can you remember the first one?
Choose life.
Jews' life. That was
It actually came from, I would say I invented Lynn Franks, who's, I don't know if anybody ever watched Ab Fab, Absolutely Fabulous, which is a TV series, and it was sort of based on her. And she was a kind of good time Buddhist. She did all the chanting of the Lotus Sutra, which is quite extraordinary. I would say that people who chant the Lotus Sutra get everything they ask for, and I'm terrible. I even do it for parking spaces, and it always works.
Can you do it?
She did, yeah, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Just for us to have a lovely day. And she was doing this Buddhist exhibition, and I said, this is crap. You're never going to get this message over doing this ghastly, grisly, boring thing. You'd be better off doing huge choose life on a t-shirt, for fuck's sake, and that can be read from, 100 meters. And I copied the sun. I looked on the street and said, what's the most legible typeface? It was actually the sun. They have these little kind of panels that they put outside a shop. They're selling newspapers and said, right, that's the typeface, we'll just do it now. And there they are. It's still working, right?
Works for me.
Yeah, Rupert Murdoch got something right.
Okay, so for me personally, I think this is a simple view, and I'd like to know what you think, but I think everything should stop. All industry should stop. Manufacture of cars, houses, built, if it all stopped all of a sudden, like kind of what happened during...
Well, they should stop making any more, or they should, it's half finished, stop now.
Just everything stop.
Do you think that's practical?
It's not, it's obviously not practical, but I think, like, stop making clothes, stop building cars, stop everything.
Well, then what happens to all the people that have got jobs building cars and making clothes? They carry on getting paid?
Plant some cars.
Where's the money going to come from? Like, so they're going to starve to death, and then what? So they're all dead, they've all stopped, so what are you going to do next?
Grow vegetables?
Who's going to be left? They're all dead. Because you've got to stop farming.
Stop everything then.
Yeah, exactly. So what are we going to eat? How are we going to heat our houses? How are we going to get from A to B? How are we going to repair our sewers? You haven't thought it through.
No, I didn't think it through because I didn't. Because I keep going back to this crisis point where we're at right now.
Well, it's only going to get worse.
All the answers are like...
You've got to devolve into some more, if I can use the word I said we can't use anymore, but a new sustainable way of doing things, where we lessen our impact on the environment, or we actually flip it the other way, that we become a benefit. I mean, if you look at sewage, for instance, that gets pumped into the sea, or processed sewage, which is dumped from cruise ships into the sea. I mean, better if they dumped unprocessed sewage, but that should all go back on the land, and we should change our sewage treatment points into methane capture and use it to generate energy and make fertilizer that you can put back on the soil. I mean, human shit is a really good fertilizer. I mean, Japanese farmers could never get enough of it. I read this really good book called The Toilet Papers, and it was describing how they actually made these very fancy public laboratories on the highways to kind of lure passing travellers in because they couldn't get enough shit. And we've got tons of it, we're just dumping it in the sea and killing it. We could change that, and we could make energy out of it. We could enrich the soil. We could get better food for longer, more of it.
More shit.
Well, put the shit back where it came from.
Yeah.
Was it like eat shit and die? What's this? How are you doing on the questions?
Okay, I
run out.
I need my glasses.
Oh no, don't twiddle them.
This is like a statement that I'd want you to see what you think about it.
Go for it.
Okay. Political systems have to prove their worth by seeming to have our best interests, everybody's best interests at heart. More often than not, this is achieved by charisma and window dressing. Too much of today's politics is based on merely longing to see some hated rival tribe crushed. Okay, you don't have
You're
to
talking about the class system.
I'm disillusioned all my life with politics, and I'm trying to get you to be more positive about politics, because I don't see any.
Well, you're right. I mean, it's with this thing that our political system is not fit for purpose. It isn't. I mean, in the UK, you've got the nurses who saved millions of people's lives during the pandemic. They were promised a pay rise, which they're not being given, and yet we're going for, spending 180 billion on Trident, which is a useless nuclear submarine. Now you've got underwater drones, because the whole thing with submarines is they're undetectable. They're no longer undetectable, and we're still going along putting this huge amount of public money into a redundant piece of military equipment.
Yeah.
For apparently status reasons, it's so crap when that should be going to paying the nurses. If we got more politically involved, we could cut that. We could tax multinationals, where if they're making money in our country, they should be paying corporation tax at a standard rate like any other business, because they're harvesting, the wallets of the citizens of a particular country, and so that they should pay for the right to do that.
I kind of agree with everything you're saying, but I'm still not enthusiastic about politics.
Well, I mean, the political system, we don't really need political parties. I mean,
the system's wrong, right?
Well, if you look at, the best democratic system in the world is probably in Switzerland, where they've got participatory democracy and they vote on every issue, and not like the Brexit referendum. They're given 18 months notice. Stop me if I'm being boring, but people sign a petition about this, that and the other, and depending on the kind of issue that it is, it can be 1%, 5%, 10%, 50% if it's a constitutional issue, and lower if it's a smaller issue. They're given 18 months notice. There'll be a referendum on this, and the country will go whichever way the referendum goes, and it becomes a status issue, talking about it in cafes and bars, and you have to be informed, otherwise you're considered an idiot. By the time we get to referendum, a lot of citizens are better informed than legislators, and they vote, and the country's run according to the results. And in the cantons, where they have more referendums than most referendums, people are the happiest. The key ingredients of happiness. Well, it's divided into areas like states or counties or whatever, and I can't remember how many there are. It was 8, 9, 12, something like that. But they're happiest where they've got the most. And I read a book on happiness, and it was saying one of the key ingredients in being happy is feeling in control of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're actually participating on, you have referendums, they may be up to 16 a year, they can get slightly fed up. But, the country is successful, whatever you think of their position of neutrality during World War II, they survive and they're happiest where they've got, the most referendums. So we should be running it like that, and it's issue-based rather than political party-based. We should just be voting on issues, and there's secure voting apps now where you can actually vote on the phone. There's a fabulous Argentinian woman called Pia Mancini who did a thing called Democracy OS, and they developed a secure voting app with Stanford in the States, and it is completely safe. If you can send money by phone, by voice recognition, you can also vote. And so they've got this in place now. It's just a matter of us picking it up and applying the technology.
Great.